Scene 1, Fox, take 2.
Action.
In this video, we're going to take another look behind the scenes at the latest short that I've bbeen helping to co-produce called AnyTask. Now, where last week's video was just a general overview about some of the language and some of the conversations that go on set, this week I kind of wanted to take more of a guided approach into a specific aspect of the process itself. Now, once again, to reiterate, this is not my short film. This is written and directed by Gibson Davis as his calling card and student project. I'm just here mainly to capture behind the scenes and the process of how they came to make it. So without further ado, let's jump into the footage and take a look at what we got. Alright, so the concept I wanted to talk about in this video is the idea of setups. Now, setups are defined as any time that a camera, lights, or both have to be repositioned to get a new shot. Now, the reason that this concept is important to understand is because you can prepare ahead of time how many setups you're going to have during your day. If we look at scene 2 from the storyboard of this short that I most recently filmed called The Cyclist, we'll find that there are 10 frames that are dedicated to getting the entire scene shot. That means that there are, in theory, 10 different setups to get every piece that we need according to what the storyboard has laid out. That means that there are 10 individual shots that need to be individually lit and individually shot to get the entire scene finished. Now, the potentially difficult part about setups is understanding how long it will take to actually set up camera and equipment for each setup, depending on how simple it is or depending on how complex you have to go. If we take a look at the storyboard for The Cyclist again, just because I have the frames for it, what turned out to be 10 frames inside of the storyboard with 10 individual setups, we were able to reduce to 1 lighting setup and 4 different camera setups. That saved us a whole lot of time on set and made it so that we were able to get the shot done much quicker than what we had originally projected. Now, the amount of time it takes for setups can kind of vary between your sets, as I had mentioned previously, but a good standard that I've been going by is based off of what Nico on the Corridor Crew said. He says that if a setup takes about 15 minutes to set up on average, and you have a 10-hour day, then you can do about 40 setups in a day. And he also goes on to say that if you try to do more than 60 setups per day, you are out of touch with reality, as he goes on to quote. Now, if you are on a 10-hour shoot day or a 12-hour shoot day, that is about what you can expect. 60 setups, 15 minutes for each setup. But if you're on a set that does not have any restrictions and you need to work on a timeline, then you can kind of push that in some areas. One, you can reduce the amount of time it takes to do a setup by doing, as I said previously, and consolidating your lighting setups into one general lighting situation that can work for most of the scenes that you have to shoot. Another thing that you can do is, instead of taking multiple takes and allowing that for each setup, reduce the amount of takes that you have by getting it right as quickly as possible. That one's kind of the hardest to enforce because multiple takes is going to be a necessity on set, but there are things that you can do to try and cut down on the amount of takes on the day, like rehearsing ahead of time and simplifying the lines that you may need to say or you may need to rehearse. And then another thing that you can do, not recommended, but you can do it, is to push the amount of time on your day that you have. A union set shoots for about 10 to 12 hours per day, and then you have to include overtime into that. But if you're working on an indie set or if you're working on a student project, as long as you treat your crew well and you feed them well, you can probably get a full 18 hours out of them. That's at least what we shot on our day for this second day. Now, I also wouldn't suggest this one either, because once you start to get past that 10-hour point from experience, your crew starts to get a little bit delirious and you're not going to want to keep them there for as long as you could potentially get them for. You really want to plan in a cushion of about 10 to 12 hours, but if you need to push to 18 hours or however long that your shoot is, you can do it, and plenty of people have. Just, I would advise against it because your crew's usefulness starts to wear thin towards the further along you go. The best way to cut down on setups that we used is to figure out how to consolidate shots to convey the same amount of information. For the fight scene, we had about 50 to 60 setups at the end of the day. And the way that we were able to get that all achieved on our timeline was by using some of these strategies. We combined lighting setups into one general wash that worked for the entire scene, and we cut scenes that weren't necessary for the short. And thanks to the rehearsal that we had done before, we were able to move quicker and more efficiently, and we knew where to place the camera this time around. So all of this adds up into saying that we were able to get about 60 setups done in about 8 hours of shooting time, which is just about on par with what Nico from Corridor Crew was saying. And with the lesson over, let's get back to the footage.
Woo! That was a lot faster than last week. We need the light set up inside and outside the window, as well as the tarp. Remember guys, efficiency, so let's get this done as soon as possible. Cut! Alright, what was that noise?
The flag's gone.
Okay.
Oh!
I thought you hit it. Me too, I was like... Okay, you can thank Jeff Bezos for this.
Right.
This has been the longest day it possibly could have been. Everyone contributed so much to what we did here today. I could not have asked for a better cast, crew. This has been just an exceptional experience. I'm going to keep this short because we all want to go home. But thank you so much for being here. I could not have made this go without you. This has been the best experience of any short film I've ever made. So thank you, all of you guys. Let's do it again tomorrow.
Thank you.
We'll walk away from